Hey guys, here is the time-lapse video for the bat sketch I did on Twitch a while back. This was a fairly simple illustration with a common approach I use in a lot of my work. For this video I'll be talking about composition with a few of my own thoughts. If anyone has any questions on art or anything in this video, I'll be happy to answer them in the questions down below. The examples I give aren't hard rules or anything. I've just done my best to explain the points I want to get across. When I'm doing illustrations, I find keeping each step simple and focusing on a few questions helps to organize everything in my head and do each part to the best I can. This also prevents me from getting distracted or wasting time on certain parts that should be done later in the process or could be cut out entirely. I usually start with a rough sketch to establish the composition and gesture of the character or main subject matter, focusing on getting a general idea of everything that will need to be in the scene. At this point, I don't worry about perfect anatomy or perspective. I just need to get the idea out of my head so I have a base to start from. Sometimes beforehand I look for reference and do a few studies, but that all depends on how much time I have for the illustration as well as what the illustration will be used for. In this case I had a reference folder for bats already, as I have done a few card commissions of them in the past. That made things a lot easier when starting, though I do feel the composition I went with was a little generic. Having a basic story behind the image can help make decisions on what should be in the image as well as where everything should be placed and what everything should be doing. I try to keep a few questions in mind when creating any composition. Firstly, what size will the image be viewed at? This will help decide how much of the image the subject matter should take up. Secondly, what would the mood, tone, or feeling of the image need to give? For instance, should the image be inspiring or imposing or scary? This will help you decide at what angle you would like the camera to be, as a higher angle would make the character more imposing and feel larger, while a lower angle would make the character seem smaller. Thirdly, what gesture for the character would support the feeling or mood you would be going for? If you wanted the scene to feel scary, you could have the monster or whatever it might be lunge at the camera. All good images have a good sense of storytelling, I find. Expression and gesture are some of the easiest and helpful ways to tell your story. And lastly, camera exposure, or how light/dark you'd want your image to be, and how would you want to structure your values. Lighter and less harsh shadows would make the scene feel light-hearted, but just remember you need to bring up the values in the light to keep them separate from the shadows. These are general ideas of what kinds of questions I ask while creating compositions. There are loads more things you could focus on or think about, and everyone will have different ways of approaching compositions with their own questions. The main takeaway is just to be more conscious when creating illustrations. I hope going through how I think about composition was helpful or at least insightful. Let me know in the comments down below if you liked this video or had any ideas for topics on future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.